Hi, this is Darren from SimNation. Just doing a quick video on blitzing. A bunch of people have asked me to do this video. This will be in context of Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2024, but the same tenet will hold true for college football 2024. Blitzing is probably one of the most misunderstood things on defense. And a lot of reason why that is most people don't realize that depending on how you set your blitz rate, you may or may not have control of the play that's getting called. So let me help you understand what that means, because this is probably the most fundamental thing to understand about blitzing. Now, I have Pittsburgh up in front of you. I have hidden my defensive plays. I went to custom and chose Mr. James Nugent, who's my head coach, and then flicked him back over to custom. And I did that because I just don't feel like sharing my plays with anybody. But anyways, so the key caveat here that you need to understand about blitz rate is one, it's not a percentage. It doesn't mean you're blitzing 61% of the time. It just means you will blitz 61 times more than not. In the case of 32 times, you're 32 times more likely to blitz. Um, Now, here's the thing that you need to understand about blitz rate specifically. If you blitz based off this weight, it is not blitzing out of your playbook, meaning James Nugent defense. It is blitzing out of a blitz playbook, which means it's calling a play that you cannot see. It is probably one of the most controversial things about this game. It's one of the things that honestly I don't like about the game. I know why I know why Wolverine Studios did what they did, but it causes so much confusion. So like in WWPF, I'm experimenting. I'm seeing, can I pull those blitz packages into the game, into the playbook, so that way people can see it. And in most cases, if you were to export the plays, you'd be able to see the blitz playbook. They always end in blitz. But let me reiterate. So if it hits the 61 times more likely and it chooses to blitz based on this setting, you are not blitzing anybody in your playbook. It's not calling a blitz play from your playbook. It's calling a blitz play from a blitzing playbook. Um, so if you're okay with that, that's great. And I would tell you that there's some reason why you might do that. The blitz playbook, if I were to show it to you, has things like DB zone blitz, where you have basically up to 6 people blitzing and 2 running in the flat. Versus most of the plays that are in the custom playbook or your coach's playbook or the default playbook that you have access to within this game are going to blitz no more than 4 or 5 people. So if you really want to blitz a lot of people, set the number to 100, but just understand you in essence don't have control of the playbook anymore. Your defensive coordinator is choosing to play, and he's choosing out of a blitz playbook that you have no access to, that you cannot see. Now I can show you how to see it, and I'll show you at the end of the video. So that's an important thing to know. So when I don't kill, I'll set the number high. I set it to 100. I've done that on teams. I do it more in college football than I do it in pro. But like the last game I played Peter. Peter is without doubt in my mind one of the best coaches I've ever seen play this game. And I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to blitz. And so what I set this number largely to 1. Or I said, in some cases, I think I set it to 15 or 25. But if you set it to 0, you're blitzing based on what your playbook says. It's never going to call the blitz playbook. If you set it to 1, it means 99 times 90, you're likely to have 90 times more of a chance of it calling a play out of your playbook than calling a play out of the blitz playbook. So I did that consciously because Peter has a really good quarterback. Peter has a very strong fundamental understanding of the game, and he generally knows how I play because we generally play against each other twice a year. And I just didn't want to give him a chance to beat me because I was blitzing the hell out of him. And one of the things I've noticed is the more I blitz him, the more he beats me. So this time around, I decided not to blitz him. And generally, it worked out for me. I won, but and I got a couple key turnovers, but I didn't really stop his quarterback. Good luck with that one. But for certain teams, you may want to blitz more. Like generally speaking, when it comes to like the Jets, I'll blitz them. Partially because I'm trying to hurt whoever their quarterback is. But the other thing is what I've noticed is if I can sack the shit out of them, it's harder for them to be able to defend. And in my case, I'll explain why I may see more success against the Jets than I do against the Raiders. But I'll also warn you, blitz like the Jets at your own peril because the Jets have arguably the best pass offense in the league. DPs excels at that. So you just have to be careful and make sure that you understand the defense that you're calling. Because if you go to the blitz playbook all the time, what you need to be careful with is there's a good chance that you're going to get exposed and give up big plays because you're calling blitz plays all the time. And those blitz plays don't always have great coverage. Whereas if you choose your own and you set the blitz lower, you're going to have better chance of defending against someone like DP. There was a guy who used to be in SNCFL, I can't remember his name now, but he had Baylor and he just loved chucking the ball down the field. So what I would do is I would not blitz. I would set the blitz to 0 or 1, and then I would just run my own plays where I would be blitzing in there, but I was running a lot of deep zone. So that's the first thing that you need to understand with blitz is this weight determines whether you're using your playbook or using the blitz playbook. Um, it doesn't really determine how often you blitz. Well, it does determine how often you blitz, but it's really saying, are you going to use your play or are you going to use the computer's blitz playbook to blitz? The other thing about this is your roster. So this is where it gets into voodoo, right? And there's no exact science to this, and I actually like what Brooks and them have done with Wolverine Studios. I may not like the Blitz playbook, but I do like what they do here. I operate with a rule of 80. So, for those of you who've ever seen my defense videos, you know that I'm a matchup player, meaning that I try to understand who is where on the field, and then I try to match my best players up against the weakest players, or at least try to create a draw between the players. Currently, Pittsburgh is a speed rushing team. I'm not a bull rushing team. In the past, I have been. It's just one of the challenges I run into sometimes is um, the people I need to beat generally have strength. And so I'm not going to beat them with strength. I'm going to have to beat them with speed. So what that means is the rule of 80 is whatever you have 80 in is the type of rush that you're going to do based on your lineman. So, for instance, if Gene Hamilton has to play, and he doesn't, he's a backup, I would be doing bull rushing. So, what I'm now going to look for Gene Hamilton is find the guy on the line who has less than 80 in strength, and I'm going to line Gene Hamilton right up on his side, and I'm going to run Gene Hamilton. I'm going to just basically let the rush go through and hope that he can outpower the guy, i.e., bull rush. Michael Perry has a lower strength, but he's a bull rusher by trait. I'll show you that. Which means that even though his strength is low, he gets bonus points for bull rushing. So I can line him up over someone and he can generally run them over. Now, he doesn't really need to, right? Because he has 87 speed. He's going to blow past most linemen because he's fast enough actually that he probably could cover a lineman. I mean, cover a wide receiver. But at 278 pounds, that's not really going to happen. So right now, Pacheco and Perry are my two starters. Ricks is a backup, even though Ricks is he's like second or third in sacks. And you can see that Perry's up there. Pacheco's not having a good year. Not sure what the hell's going on with him. I got to figure that out later. But I think I do know what's going on with him, by the way, is he's just getting old. His strength is lower. so he's not getting as much push and his speed is low. These two, because it's these guys, because it's over 80, I'm going to speed rush, which means I'm going to line them up generally on the line against linemen who are slower and just turn them loose. And it's the reason why Ricks and Perry have done a pretty good job of getting penetration and pushing through. Generally, you want the strength of any defensive lineman to be above 65. If they're above 65, you're going to see a lot more penetration. You're going to see them be able to do a lot more. Agility does matter, which is one of the reasons why Ricks is having such a good season is he has a good agility. He can get that first step and get around someone. The other thing that often gets misunderstood is intelligence. Intelligence does factor into pass rushing. Um, if they have a higher intellect, they're likely going to have a easier time with determining the lanes that they're going to take. And then, of course, tackling finishes it off. But generally, I like to speed rush, so I will have people who have high 70s, like 78, 79, or will have 80s in speed. And these are the type of guys I draft, or I try to find in free agency and go after. And then I just want to make sure their strength is above 65. Now, Pacheco's was above 65, but again, the dude's 32 years old. He's on the decline. Hamilton, I will bring in when I want a bull rush. So, like if I notice my opponent has a weak offensive lineman, like a tackle, I'm gonna let Hamilton to go into the game and just bull rush. Now, again, he's not very fast, but it doesn't matter when you're bull rushing. If you have a guy in the 60s, but he has like 89 strength or 90 strength as a defensive end, you really should be bull rushing. Now, some people brought up that you can't choose which one that they do. That's true, but if he has an 89 strength, he's going to outmuscle the tackle as long as that tackle doesn't have like a 90 or 92, right? And then on the defensive tackle, I tend to like my defensive tackles to eat space, so you'll notice that a lot of them have more strength based. Although I do have Wade Miller, who arguably is my best defensive tackle, and he can get speed and penetration. Plus, he's got a lot of he when he hits someone, they're going down, and he knows his position really well. Wade is probably one of the better draft picks I've had in a while. Perry, not so much, but he's had a good career. And then, of course, with linebackers, you want to have speed generally because most of what they're going to be doing is going to be a speed rush. Adam Lyons is an anomaly in the fact that he has strength, agility, and speed. So I blitz him a lot. Um, and again, in the Blitz playbook, because I understand what the Blitz playbook looks like, I'm able to say that generally this, in a nickel situation, this person's going to blitz who's a linebacker, and I'm going to make sure Adam's in that position because I want him to be the one blitzing. And that's the other thing is if you understand, if you look at the plays and then you understand the side, like this is the right outside linebacker versus the left outside linebacker, if you know who's blitzing, put your best person in there that either has the right strength to get around somebody, the agility, or has the speed. In this case, Adam has 280 pluses, which means that he's just going to generally be disruptive. And you can see that with he has 9 sacks on the season. Um, so that's kind of the attributes part of it. The other thing is just the ability to read a playbook, right? And I'll show you this real quick. Again, I'm not going to show you my playbooks. So if you look at these, and actually, I was just going to create a new one. I'm not going to save this anyway. So when you look at your playbooks, I chose offense, didn't I? And let's delete that, create a new playbook. Thought I chose defense, but we'll save this anyways. We'll go to plays. There we go. Um, so 3-4s, again, you're relying more on the linebackers to get penetration versus the line because the line generally is going to be operating at a deficit unless you have really you have to take one or two approaches with 3-4. You either need to have very, very strong defensive ends or you need to have very fast defensive ends. So like Pittsburgh can get away with running a 3-4 because Perry, Pacheco, and Ricks are just a monster to deal with their speed. Um, but I also have very fast linebackers, which makes it really, really hard. But again, you want to look at the plays. So like if we look at uh, 3-4 base, so this means 3-4 base, cover one pinch, which means that essentially, well, I don't need to explain that to you. So if you look at these symbols, these two are in coverage, these three are in zone, he's in a deep zone, these two are blitzing plus this, so you're getting people into the bot, five people who are blitzing. So in an ideal world, this is Adam Lyons, this is Juan Finley, who are both very fast, or this could be Michael Gresham. Um, and then this is generally Pacheco, this is generally Perry, and this is generally Miller. So what you have is if you add up all their speed together and compare that against the offensive lineman, one of them is probably going to get through. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to get a sack, but one of the things, if you look at the best coaches, and I'll show you this in a second, uh, I'll show it to you in a second. But again, if you look at the plays, you can tell who's doing what. So again, coverage, 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 rushing. This is a zone rush, meaning that he's going to play close to the line and then choose whether or not to rush. This person's in zone. These are deep zones. Cover three, these are flats, meaning they're going to go to whichever side they're supposed to. This guy's in coverage. They're playing deep zones, coverage, and then zone, and then rush. So, like in this case, if you're saying, why am I not getting any sacks off this play? Well, you're only blitzing three people, so unless you have monsters who are very fast, you're likely not going to get any penetration because everybody's playing in coverage or playing in zone. So just make sure you look at the plays and you understand what's going on. And again, like when I mentioned earlier, is if you're using the game's blitz plays, you're not going to know what those are unless you actually export it and then take a look at it. And even then, you don't know which one's going to get called because you really don't have control over that. So if you look at that, that's the playbook. Now, stat-wise, I may go into a different view. But so I've talked about pass defense before. I'll talk about this. A good, healthy defense, and actually, let's just go to league leaders. This will be an easier way to show it because that way I'm not just showing you Pittsburgh. If you go to team stats, you go to defense. So sacks is one indication of penetration, right? So Seattle, Pittsburgh, Oakland, Carolina generally are considered to be the best blitzing teams out there, right? So, but the other things is if you don't have a lot of knockdowns and hurries, uh, you don't really have a great healthy uh, blitzing defense. So if you look at it, Seattle healthy blitzing defense. I mean, these are still good numbers, but you look at Pittsburgh 53-72. You look at Oakland. Peter's not getting a lot of. He's still getting a ton of sacks, but this is ungodly right here, 72 and 88. That means he is pressuring the hell out of people. So if you were to put that up against the amount of plays that are called and things like that, what you'd suddenly realize is he's getting a really good penetration. So is Invisible with Carolina. Generally above 50 is good hill. Seattle, one of the reasons why their defense is struggling is they're either going to get the sack or it's still decent, but it's not great. You want to see this be above 50. You want to see this above generally 60 at this point in the season. So like Miami with Soa, he's getting good penetration. The Rams are getting good penetration. But if we were to flip this and look down at the bottom, is the Texans are not getting good penetration, neither are the Saints. Um, Seattle's not that bad. I'm not going to say that. But then you look at the Texans, they're having some struggles, and you can correlate this to some of the struggles on defense, right? And then you look here and you see like the Giants only have 16 sacks. that generally is going to be a indication that something there is unhealthy, and it either could be the plays that are getting called where only three people are blitzing, or it could be that they don't have the right people in the right matchups. It could be any of those things. So generally how I view if I'm being successful with blitzing is I add up sacks, knockdowns, and hurries. Sacks by this point in the season should generally be somewhere in the 30s at the minimum. Knockdown should generally be somewhere in the 30s as well. Hurries should be really more in the 30s as well. Um, but the really good defenses generally are going to have hurries. Like Shark will tell me his defense is not playing well. Yeah, he's not getting sacks, but they're pressuring the hell out of people. So I I did play football at one time. I will tell you that one of the coaches I played for said that it doesn't matter whether you tackle that guy for a sack or if you knock him on his ass. A knockdown is the same as a sack. A hurry is the same as a sack because 9 times out of 10, you're forcing them to do something faster than they want to do it. So while Shark's sacks are low, this is really good. I mean, if you look at it against Peter, he's got the same amount of knockdowns. He's only three less than the hurries. So this is a healthy blitzing defense. It's just maybe they're not getting as many sacks. And then with Pittsburgh again, it's a good healthy defense when you look at it. Knockdowns maybe not as much, but hurries definitely is. So that's kind of the art of blitzing. The last thing I want to end with is so if you want to see the playbook, um, and again, each league is different. So if you're playing in a league other than WWPF, it may be different, but we tend to use what is the original playbooks. So best way to do this is you just start a new game. Once you're in the new game, you will go to league options. And I'm logged in as commissioner because I have to be for this. You'd go to advanced settings and then you would just export the current plays. It'll drop it on your desktop as a plays.xml file. You can use Notepad to open it. And then what I would just say is do a search on Blitz. And well, actually, that may not be the brightest idea because one of the things is Blitz. But if you scroll down and you look through it, you'll see plays I'll say like DP run Blitz, which is dime prevent run Blitz. Almost all the plays end in the term Blitz. Um, I think that there are some of them that are like bring it or something like that, but generally the blitzing playbook is pretty well documented in there and you should be able to see it. And again, you won't see those plays in your playbook. Now, in the case of WWPF, I am going to look pretty hard at do I simply just copy those in, and I am testing that right now. Mostly just because I want to get to a state where it's really easy. Maybe the easiest way to look at it, if I remember correctly, is if you look for um, and I'll put it somewhere, but it's if you scroll down, you'll see something that says something like playbook name default, and it says type equals blitzes. That's the blitz playbook. So again, you can't see that in the game, but you can see it when you export the playbook. And it'll give you an idea of, if nothing else, it'll just give you an idea of what's going on. Now, again, the challenge is you got to understand IDs and stuff like that, which are positional IDs. So I may just try to do a video on that at some point, but generally the easiest way, if you don't know what that is, I'm going to cancel this. I'm not going to save this anyway, so we should be fine. Go ahead and cancel, please. Okay, we'll just go here. So if you go back to strategy, and you ever want to know what the position IDs are, the easiest way to do is go to custom plays, new defensive play, and then what you can see is this is generally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And it'll change based on the defense you choose, right? Like if you choose Cordal, you notice that these change. If you choose let's just say D52 wide, you'll notice that these change. So when you look at the play, if you have this open, you can actually see what the numbers are. So when it says slot ID equals 0, this would be 0, this would be 1, this would be 2, this would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it'll go up to 10. So if you look at that, that'll just give you an idea of what's going on. So hopefully you find this of value. It's not an easy thing to talk about, but if I were to summarize this really easily, blitz rate really is the amount of times that you're more likely to do something. So if it's lower, then you're going to call your playbook more likely. If it's higher, you're going to call more likely the blitz playbook. You can't see the blitz playbook unless you export it and look at the plays. And generally speaking, the blitz playbook is not anything that you're calling. So just got to keep that in the back of your mind. So if you're wondering why, if I'm only running like outside linebacker blitzes, but I have a blitz rating weight of like 90, the reason why the people blitzing are not the people you expect to blitz is because you're calling it from the blitz playbook, not from the actual playbook. Attributes do matter, so matchup is important. Take a look at who you're going against. What are they running from an offensive lineman? Or just generally say that, look, in a league, maybe generally the left tackle is stronger, the right tackle is weaker. So if I'm a bull rush somebody, meaning that my defensive end has a strength above like 78, preferably 80 plus. I'm going to bull rush. If it's the guys are slow, then I'm a speed rush. And again, you want generally above 78 or up into the 80s. But again, you can have low one, it still will work. Same for linebackers as well. Most linebackers are going to speed rush, so you want to have fast outside linebackers or fast inside linebackers, depending on who's blitzing. The big difference between the blitz playbook and the normal playbook is normal playbook, you can generally get no more than 5 people blitzing at a time, whereas in the blitz playbook, you could have upwards of 6 or 7. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And then the last thing is just understanding what the X's and O's mean. Like, case in point, if I choose rush, it looks like that. If I choose flat, it looks like that. If I choose hook, it would look like that. And by the way, don't do what I'm doing. That's a zone rush, like I mentioned earlier. And then, of course, I'm not going to do those, but you could have that. And again, generally, rush is for linemen, blitz is for anyone who's not a lineman. And then I could just do like cover, cover, cover. And what this would mean is that I would have 3 people on coverage. I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people blitzing, 1 zone rushing, 1 dropping back, and then 1 going off to the side to cover. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Hopefully this video helps you. Sorry it went longer than I wanted it to, but like I said, I could probably talk about this subject for hours. Hope you have a great day, and if there's anything you want me to cover, definitely let me know. Thanks. Bye.